Hello and welcome to another podcast by DETAIL. My name is Jakob Schof, editor at DETAIL, and today I'll be taking you to the north of Copenhagen, where the Norwegian architects Neuwied have just completed an extension of the Ordrupgard Art Museum, a museum which 15 years ago had already been extended by no other than Zaha Hadid. Now I've spoken to Julie Ars, project manager at Neuwied, about their concept for the museum. Julie, how do you approach the task of adding to a museum that had already been significantly extended by another prominent architect just a few years ago?
When we approached it, the two buildings that are already there, the original manor house from 1918 had this much more like neoclassical expression, and then the extension of Zaha Hadid from 2005 has a very distinct appearance. It's hard to sort of build next to these two very distinct buildings. So what we started looking at was mostly the landscape, the garden that is already there. So when you get there, it's only this steel structure that you can see, almost like an outdoor space for the entrance of the Zaha Hadid building, which takes more part of the garden plan. You don't understand really what it is. It's not a building because it's too low to be a building. It's only 1.2 meters. And you have this diagonal bridge that you're walking across towards the entrance. And you don't really understand what it is before you have entered the building, because the new subterranean extension to the museum is creating a new loop in the museum. And you will understand from the inside that this steel structure was actually the top of the main exhibition hall.
Was it clear from you from the outset that you would have to go underground with your museum extension?
It was when the competition was held in 2012. That was actually one of the requirements, that we had to go underground, because they had already filled all the parts of the ground that they could build on. So it was a requirement. As far as I remember, we were the only one proposing to put the extension in front of the building. All the other proposals, they were outside in the garden, and thereby we were also the only ones that could make this continuous round movement in the museum.
What were the ambitions of your client with the project? Why did they commission another extension yet again in such a comparatively short time?
The museum, they own a French impressionistic collection. It's the biggest collection in the northern countries of impressionistic art. And they didn't have enough space just to show the entire collection. So it was actually 40% of the collection that was not shown. So the museum is very happy today that almost 100% of their collection is now shown to public.
Now, we talked a lot about the Hadid building and the new subterranean spaces now. What can visitors to Ordrupgard expect to see in the old manor house?
Actually, I think the museum, they have used the time of the construction phase really well, because they have restored all the living rooms. The original owner of this manor house, he was a bit in opposition to the different art institutions, and he wanted art to be seen more as a part of being in living rooms. So all the living rooms, they have been restored now, and the art pieces have been brought back on their original places.
Now, the most visible part of your project is obviously the steel structure in the garden, which is almost a piece of art in itself. What was your main source of inspiration for it?
The steel structure was in many ways inspired by the collection and the French impressionistic artists. The Impressionists, they're famous for their interest in light and capturing the lights in all its different facets. And in a way, with the steel structure, we wanted to to do the same. We wanted to capture the light in all its facets during the days and during the seasons. I think this roof will never look this. It will look different from day to day, from minute to minute, in the way the seasons are changing. It's both has a geometry that is faceted, and it's also polished in different direction. So the light will be reflected in all its different facets.